Hi guys, I'm Ali Hussein Kasim of AliTalksTech. I have another interesting guest today, Imelda Ngunzu, Director, Global Partnerships and Segments at MasterCard. Imelda, karibu.
Asante.
So Imeldas is always my way of starting this conversation is to just recap what AliTalksTech is all about.
Yeah.
And the role we all play in the Pan-African tech ecosystem. We are about telling our own story.
Yeah.
Our journeys, our triumphs, our challenges, and how we move forward
Yeah.
for this beautiful continent of ours.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just about telling your story.
Okay.
So who is Imelda? You have just taken on a new role, I suppose.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
As Director, Global Partnerships and Segments
Yeah.
at MasterCard. What does that entail, Imelda? And also, as we move on into this conversation, we want to know a little bit about you more. How did you get to this point? Where have been the challenges? Have those challenges been, a pivotal place for you to grow as a person and as a professional?
Yeah.
Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Ali. My name is Imeldas. Ali has introduced myself. I am a Director for Global Partnerships and Segments at MasterCard, focusing mostly on consumer goods companies.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing to note is MasterCard is always trying to figure out new ways of doing business and, of course, digitizing payments. That's our core mandate. And my role is to work with consumer goods companies to figure out how we can commercialize and enable digital payments in the ecosystem. So I look after the Eastern Europe and Middle East and Africa region. I've got 3 lenses in
Eastern Europe,
Middle East, and Africa. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big role, Imelda. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much.
Do you sleep?
I try. I try, but I think the way of looking at it is you prioritize and you focus on what's important. Okay. So, for example, we're a global team and we've got 3 lessons into our strategy. Okay. Innovation, digitization, and sustainability. Okay. So for now, I'm focusing on sustainability, given that a majority of the emerging market that I look after in Africa, we still have got a long way to go. So you may know the microcredit program that I run for MasterCard is one of our pioneer sustainability programs in partnership with consumer goods companies and local banks.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what I do. But outside of MasterCard, I am a mother. Of 2 beautiful kids. My daughter is 14, almost turning 15 next month. And my son is 7. And I'm married to a businessman. So that's kind of my life.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Those are the people who will make me not sleep, actually. Yeah.
Not the job.
The job is a big part of it. Yes. But I think family is also a critical piece of what we do. Yeah. So I try to balance. But I love it. I love it. I like to say I am also a champion for economic, women and youth economic empowerment. I think technology is such a huge enabler for economies to thrive. But I also believe that there are segments of our population that must never be left behind. Of course, women being a huge piece of it. A lot of my friends call me a feminist. So how do we also focus on the youth to ensure that technology is here to help them to advance their economic well-being?
How do you balance that philanthropist part of you and your day-to-day at work and the family?
I think, like I said, is focusing and prioritizing. So we've got all 24 hours in a day, but what fills your day is what you actually are passionate about and what you believe 100% you must spend your time on. So it's challenging, right? But I also think, like, when you set boundaries and I'm lucky to be working for a company that actually grows or encourages philanthropy, and so that helps me to it's not a difficult conversation to tell my boss that I'm taking 2 days off to focus on this project. So they allow for that, and I love that kind of flexibility. But I've also got a very supportive family. My husband is very big on the project. A lot of people don't know, but he is the one who came up with the first idea. It was on a dinner table, and so he came up with the idea, and let's work together and deliver this. So I think it's finding the right support system, prioritizing your focus and your passions, because you know why they are important. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
Imelda, how did you get here? How did you your story? What's your story? Today you are at MasterCard, one of the largest payment platforms, ecosystems across the world.
Yeah.
But before that,
how did I get here? It's
Tell us the story of the Imelda young girl. To where you are at today.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back in time. So I'm a village girl, born, brought up, and schooled in Makueni, in a Makueni County. I went to a very small village school called Muluti Primary School in Boni constituency then.
That's about how many kilometers from Nairobi?
That's about 120, 130 kilometers from here. It's not so far, but it's remote. I think after you cross Machakos County, then you start getting into the real village.
Sometimes we do forget that, just maybe 100, 120 kilometers from Nairobi, you find extremely remote places.
And that's actually a very important point to say, Ali, because I think we focus. So the way I like to approach charity is, let's not do what everybody has done. And I've got no problem with that. I support a lot of charities. But what is it that we can do outside Nairobi to touch so many other people who deserve this? And this was one of my ideas when I was thinking about this project that I'm doing. So it's not far from Nairobi, but the poverty levels and the lack of resources is actually extremely dire.
And it's shocking.
So when we went to launch the digital lab, I carried my friends, and of course I carried a huge piece of my colleagues, and people were in shock. It's
just
like
120
kilometers from Nairobi.
It brings new meaning to the term vitu kwa ground ni different.
It brings a whole different perspective, Ali, and it's for those reasons that, like, I call myself a proud village girl, and one of the things that does to my mind is connects me to my roots, and I can never forget that there are people who.
Imelda, I hear what you're saying. Down in Kilifi, my brother is doing sort of some of the same things that you're doing with his Lamuka hub. What I like to, more often than not, do is call it social investment. As opposed to just,
philanthropy.
As opposed to just charity, because some people get fatigued about some of these terms. But if we don't carry along people with us, we find ourselves living in an island.
No, absolutely. So it's actually sustainable social impact. That's my phrase, because it has to be sustainable for long term, and it must create the right social impact within our communities that we're looking for. So my story starts from there, right? I go into a pretty provincial high school. I get myself some spot at JQuat. My parents were gracious to pay for my diploma, but my dad was clear that after diploma, I'm done.
Uko peke yako.
Uko peke yako. I've got other siblings to look after. So after my diploma at JKUAT, I got an internship at the Ministry of Education.
So what did you do at JKUAT?
So I did a diploma in information technology.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then I you know the way they tell you to get an internship before you graduate. So I found myself at Jogo House, teaching very old people how to use a mouse. My most interesting job ever. Yeah, and then from there, then I worked my way. I got
Jogo House, that's Ministry
of Education, Science and Technology.
Education, Science and Technology.
Yes.
And you're teaching these guys how to use a mouse.
Yeah, but it was good because then at that point, it kind of started to show me the gap in the technology space. Technology was pretty young then, but there was a lot of work to be done. So I started working for a technology company that was bidding for Jogo House. So I found my way into these people, Henry Joroge, OpenView then. Yes. So I was a customer service rep, attached to Stanchart Bank, did a little bit of level 1 IT support, but I didn't love it at all. So it's actually Lucy, Henry's job, who told me, I think you can do sales. And so I got into sales then and then worked for a couple of companies, Iway Africa.
Were you at the same time?
No, I think Nancy was earlier. Yeah, Nancy was earlier. Then I went into Vodacom, Business Africa, then found myself at Airtel and MasterCard. So it's been a journey. It's not been, yeah.
So you journey
they were all business development, to be honest, after OpenView. But then you're selling technology, right? So you always have to understand what you're selling, and trends. Technology moves very quickly. So, for example, Iway Africa, Voda, it was all communications, telecommunications, as well as Airtel. But then I was getting tired of MPLS, connectivity, all those things. And so when I came to MasterCard, I discovered technology for good, right?
How many years have you been at MasterCard?
4.5 now, almost clocking 5. So I came into MasterCard through the Lab for Financial Inclusion in Nairobi.
Okay.
At that time, they'd created an innovation platform for farmers, connecting farmers. So my mandate was to...
I remember we talked about that farmers digitization process.
Yes.
How did that go? How is that going, rather?
So it's going quite well, actually. My role, they asked me, we've built this beautiful solution. We believe it will create impact, but how do we commercialize it? So I was meant to figure out how to commercialize it. And let me tell you, commercializing financial inclusion programs is not easy. You're asking somebody to pay for a farmer to benefit.
And they are like, I don't
how
have
am I making money?
You're asking me to pay. Where is that money? And what's my benefit? What's the benefit?
Well, yeah. So the way I look at these things is find partners who are aligned into the objective of technology for good, because then they know they need to invest, but then you must also be very careful to show them how they benefit from it. And it doesn't always have to be a commercial benefit. And that's where probably my sustainable social impact comes from, is like, how do we make these things sustainable for the future without always having to go to the development organization, say, give us money to do this. So the development organizations have a critical job to play, 100% in catalyzing some of these things, but how do you make sure there is a commercial anchor for it? Because that's the only way.
How do you make sure it's sustainable for the long term?
Exactly. Yeah.
Imelda, I like this conversation about technology and agriculture. And, Africa has 60% of the world's available arable land.
Yeah.
And yet, what happens is that we still suffer when some country that most Africans have not heard of, go into war.
Yeah.
The Ukraine war has caused a lot of
impact
and impact
across
in
the world,
Africa.
actually. Yeah.
I mean, we can focus on Africa for now because that's really where our focus is.
Yeah.
How do we resolve these issues going forward? And I know it's a big question, but what role can we play?
I think technology has a role to play in that. In most cases, a lot of our farmers are smallholder farmers. I think except for South Africa, where farmers actually do farming commercially. In Africa, most, I'll put it at about 70%, is smallholder farmers. They're doing food for sustenance. So there is a huge role that ecosystem players can play to educate farmers first that you can actually make money if you do this thing commercially, right? Because like you say, we have the land.
Yes.
But then there is also a role for government and for policymakers to ensure that some of these
big role.
Inputs is not expensive, because if you tell a farmer to plant maize and they're going to invest 90% in buying fertilizer and the right seed, and then there's no market, then the farmer will go at a loss. Then there's also the role for technology.
But is it that there's no market, or is it access to markets?
There is a lot of market. That, like, you'd be surprised some of the players we talked to and said, you're talking about cotton. Where is this cotton? Right? Like, I did a program in Western Kenya, Kisumu, Busia, sorry. And the farmers literally have cotton rotting in the...
What?
And then I went to Industrial and I met these guys who process cotton, and they're saying, we don't know where these farmers are. And it is so sad to watch that situation. But then our role as technology players is link them.
To create market
you don't need AI to create market linkages. You need the basic of technology.
Yes.
And I think that's where players like ourselves come in. Then is like link the market players, link the input side and the supply side, and then also educate, build capacity, and utilize the information you have to lobby for policymakers, because then they'll listen to you. Unfortunately, they'll listen to you. So really the problem in agriculture is not complex. There's a lot of wastage after harvest wastage, but the people know the problem. I think it's just how do we address it as ecosystem players without looking at it in silos.
I mean, this farming conversation, we can continue.
We can have it until cows come home.
Until cows come home.
Yeah.
The thing, for me is, let's solve the small problem.
Start somewhere.
Let's start somewhere. The story of the cotton farmer and the manufacturer and the cotton processor is, you can replicate that story.
Yeah.
Left, right, and center.
You can go to rice. You can go to dairy.
We import mango pulp from Brazil, yet mangoes are going bad in Tenerife.
My dad's mangoes are rotting in Makueni, 120 kilometers
in Makueni.
Yeah.
What is wrong with us?
Yeah.
Imelda?
Yeah.
What is it that we need to do? Because we can sit here and talk about FinTech, but when people don't have, we can't solve the most basic problem. I feel like I need to change and stop talking about agri-tech every day.
Absolutely. No, I mean, we've got this very funny phrase, and we say we need to stop building helicopters for the problem of a wheelbarrow. Right?
Please don't get me started about wheelbarrows, but anyway.
No, but it's true, because we did some project in Uganda, right? And we went to talk to the farmers there, and we've built good technology. And then we go to Uganda and we require mobile phones to run this thing, because we've done surveys and 70% of Africans have mobile phones now. And we find in this particular location or division in Uganda, it's only 30% of people who have phones.
Wow.
How are you going to deliver that? So I think we need to call ourselves into a meeting and say, let's understand who we're building for. Let's understand who we're building for.
Let's solve for the right problem.
Let's solve the basics. Let's solve the basics, because I kid you not, the problem is at the basics. It's not AI. There's only a few of us who have smartphones, right? So we must not build.
So Africa's smartphone penetration is at what, 20-30%?
Yeah.
That is 20% of 1.4 billion people.
Yeah. So one of the reasons while we were talking about starting the projects is we can do everything, but there's kids who still don't have English textbooks, right? The basic textbook that a child needs to understand how to construct an English sentence.
And I think that came into focus during COVID.
Absolutely. And let me sad story of, I don't know.
Yes.
So my mom was a teacher and she loved teaching. And one of the things that was eating her up is she's not seeing her kids and she doesn't know if her pupils, if they're fine. And we had this conversation with her and it's like, why don't you call them to your house once in a while? I mean, nobody's looking in the village and just do something, like have revision with them. And she's like, I can do that. I know I'm breaking the law, but I think it's necessary because we don't know when we are opening and there'll be exams when we open. And the biggest problem she had is these kids don't have books. So I have to go to the school, pick the books so I can, because they can't afford books in their homes. And this was an impediment for her trying to do an illegal thing, but a good thing. So imagine if she was teaching in Nairobi, there would be kids who have books in their homes and you'll just come over to my house 2 hours a day and I'll do this thing. Now, that is 120 kilometers away. Believe you not, it's the whole of Kenya.
So, Imelda, what's striking for me here is the fact that you've not even talked about connectivity. You've not, because those... that at that basic level, there's no connectivity.
There's no connectivity. These kids, all they want to do, go to school, learn some English, and get themselves to a good school so they can break the poverty line. Do you understand? It's basic. And it's 120 kilometers from Nairobi. So let's go to Kakamega, which is 500 kilometers.
About.
Right? So you can imagine replicate this across Kenya. So we are building technology and it's a very good thing we're doing, but we are enabling only a small percentage of the population. So what happens is as we move on to ChatGPT and become the smartest of people, we're leaving 90% of the population behind.
Look, I think now we're getting into policy issues and a bit of politics.
Yeah.
But as I keep on saying, if we don't discuss some of these things, it's like trying to operate Excel spreadsheets or get onto the internet when your operating system is corrupted. You're aware of the Universal Service Fund.
Yeah.
That is supposed to bridge the gap for the areas of this country that the commercial companies, the internet service providers feel is not commercially viable for them to offer those services. And we've had the Universal Service Fund now for quite a number of years. Why are we still having this conversation?
You know, Ali, I leave the politicians and the policymakers to do their thing. And I hope the likes of you can actually catalyze these conversations because they're important. But I look at it from an individual perspective. If everybody of us did something small, just go back to your village school and give them a computer, which costs about 25K. Yeah. Just do something and let those people think. Imagine we will get there somehow, because then the government somebody in government will sit and say, wait a minute, I think this thing is important. Every time you're going for Christmas or Eid, take 5 English textbooks from Longhorn, cost you about
2,000.
Yeah. So I I understand the policy and the government conversation, and I do hope that that will continue.
Yes.
But I also believe as technology leaders, we've got a role to play and to do our part. And through our actions, then 100% inform policy.
Look, it's definitely $1 trillion question.
Yeah.
Let's go to your recent, is it an award or recognition?
Yeah, let's call it a recognition.
A recognition.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that? And tell us a little bit about that recognition.
Yeah, so first of all, it was a surprise, a complete surprise. My friend sent me this thing and it's like, oh, wow, okay, thank you. So it's Africa Tech Festival, let me get it right. They run a series of events, AfricaCom, East AfricaCom.
Correct.
Yeah. I think their media partner is, or they own Connecting Africa, who then amplify. So they listed top 100 most influential African leaders in technology. And I happened to be there.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, and I think it was more to do with the role I'm doing at MasterCard, but also in my own capacity to bridge the education and digital resources. And I was excited and I was happy for that somebody saw it fit to recognize things. I think the most important thing I've learned is these jobs are difficult.
Yes.
They're not easy, right? And a lot of times we sit down and question, am I doing the right thing? Should I do it differently? Is it even helping? But some things serve to validate you.
Correct.
Right? I don't know if that's a
validation
vain
is
word
always
to use.
important. No. Validation is important. But it keeps us going.
It keeps us going. So for me, it was a moment to sit back and reflect. Okay, so I've done a digital lab and a library in one school. I'm in the process of doing 4 more schools. How can I use this platform to amplify that more? And to
this personal project of yours, tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
You've sort of
touched
and brushed over it.
Yeah.
When did it start?
Yeah.
And what keeps you going to make sure that you are bridging this gap as you move along?
So Ali, as you know, I lost my mom in 2020 during COVID, and it was one of the most difficult points in my life, if I may say so. I think if you've lost a loved one, it changes you completely. It brings life into perspective. So it was, for me, it was a fact that I like to say it was actually a selfish thing. I wasn't ready to let her go because it happened abruptly. But then because of the situation of a COVID, I didn't feel we gave her the right send off.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, she was bigger than this. So during our first year anniversary, we sat down with my husband. It's like, what do we do to mark this day and kind of celebrate and do something that should have been happy about? And so we came up with a library idea. So so we went to the school. We asked the headmaster, do you have like a free class that we can stock up books? So we thought it's the best place to kind of, in our thinking, she'd not retired. She was she was 54 years old. Okay. So the library would kind of close that gap and continue to provide the services that she's no longer doing, right?
Yes.
So we raised money. I talked to you. You connected me to Longhorn, which were amazing partners.
Yeah, we were happy to.
Oh, yeah.
We were happy to contribute.
Gave us a lot of books and a plan. Actually, I think they gave us 30% discount. So we built the library. We got funds from people. We built the shelves, stocked it up, and the village was happy and the school was happy. And actually, Longhorn did a report later and analyzed the performance. Within a year, you could see the impact. Performance for the kids, which was very surreal to see. Anyway, one of my friends is also part of Digital Disruptions. Is called me before we launched the library, and he's like, do you have a computer that maybe the teachers can keep a stock of the books? Yes. I think you need a computer. So he gave me a MacBook and I was like, okay. They don't even have power. How are we going to power this MacBook? But then one of my colleagues was looking for something to do. I think it was our 10th anniversary, and him and the wife wanted to do something charity. So he came and said, I'll do the solar.
Wow.
I know. So things were just happening. I was like, okay. So the thing became bigger than I like to say.
This story reminds me a lot about a firm belief I have that your net worth
is your
is
network.
The sum total of your network.
100%. No, 100%. And I saw it. And you saw when we went to DDC to ask for money.
Yes.
It's like people were sending me money and I was like, yeah. So anyway, fast forward, MasterCard, God bless them. They've got this thing they run called CEO Force for Good. So they look for employees who are doing amazing community work. So they
picked you.
They picked me. They picked me and they said, we will award you this thing. So what happens is when you get this award, you're flown to New York to sit with the global CEO and have dinner. So there was COVID, so Imelda wasn't going to New York, right? But instead of that, so normally when you win the award, they give you $1,000 to a charity of your choice. And then they fly you to New York. So I couldn't go to New York, so they added me at $4,000.
So that's your cost to New York.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Money well spent.
Yes.
So I was happy. I was happy. I was sad to not go to New York, but I was happy. So I've got now $5,000 and we sit.
So that's seeded.
Seeded another project, another idea. So what do? Let's do a computer lab. I think they would use some computers. So we worked with Computer for Schools. It's a MasterCard vetted charity. So the money went to them and we built a digital lab.
Wow.
And then MasterCard picked it up again and they said, we need to replicate this in more schools. What do you want? I said, I want money. I want a lot of money. So we did a global fundraiser towards the end of last year. And we've raised about $32,000 now.
Within the MasterCard community.
Within the MasterCard community.
This is amazing.
It's amazing. It's chilling to think, right? So we are now busy working with Computer for Schools to build digital labs in 4 other remote schools.
That for me is not charity.
It's not. Yeah, 100%.
That for me is what I call emphatically social investment.
Yeah, and I'll add something to it. So when it went viral within MasterCard, right? And one of my colleagues, I don't know him, from the London office, he just called me.
Wow.
And he said, this is so touching. I want to play a role. And I run this charity for books. He goes to India and he gets books and he spreads them across the world. And he's committed to put books in every digital lab we put.
Amazing.
So we are going to be building a digital lab and hiving a corner and putting a shelf and books. And it's for me, I'm solving very basic issues with the books, 100%. But also I'm preparing these kids to understand that the world is moving digitally very fast. And I'm giving them the resources to actually see a computer. You should have come when we had the unveiling for the digital lab. And kids were amazed. Like they were fearing to touch the computer. And these are kids in class 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so my son now programs his own games on a smartphone, right?
He's on a smartphone.
Yeah, he's 7. This kid, he teaches me how to use my smartphone.
Digital natives.
You understand? But there's a boy in my village in class 8 who has never seen a computer,
leave alone a smartphone.
He's never seen a computer.
We are not doing right.
Yeah, so that's what drives me, Ali. When people ask me, why do you focus more on this thing? It's like, I am a village girl. I'm made by this village. And I cannot continue to let this happen.
I think we really do forget that if we leave so many people behind, it is akin to having a massive villa smack in the middle of an informal settlement.
Yeah.
yes, you may enjoy whatever you are doing,
Yeah.
but everywhere around you,
Yeah.
you are not in the same environment.
No,
you absolutely
you're
not
not.
same.
Yeah. And what benefit is that if we enable 10% of the world and leave 90%
No,
behind?
it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Imelda, we are unfortunately coming to a close
Yeah.
of our super interesting conversation. For me, this conversation is inspirational to hear someone at your level spending also so much time personally, not through your company, personally,
Yeah.
to do social investment work.
Yeah.
So this is me congratulating you.
Thank you.
And encouraging you to continue.
Yeah.
And please feel free to always ask your friends
For help.
to join.
Yeah. No,
because
100%.
don't just do these blessings yourself. Spread them around, which you already are doing. But I want to encourage you to continue doing that. Folks, we come to the end of this conversation today. Looking forward to many more from you. Asanteni sana.